Alright guys, what's going on? So I was out of commission for a couple days because of the weather, but I'm back now, so I figured I'd pick up where I left off. I could rehash all the stuff about the Alex Pretti shooting in Minneapolis, but you know, like everybody's caught up on that at this point. I do want to make one correction that I had said from earlier, because I said at the time when it happened, they said they found a gun on him, and I had said, you know, look, if they found a gun, there's a very high chance that they probably planted it, and I was wrong, so I want to go ahead and say I was wrong. He actually did have one on him, but here's the kicker. He was licensed to carry a firearm in Minnesota. He had a concealed carry permit in Minnesota, so he's well within his rights to have that gun. And then here's even funnier. The gun in question never once left his hip until an agent, a federal agent, took it off of his hip. And this was while he was blinded and on the ground on his knees and getting the crap kicked out of him by a bunch of other federal goons. That was when the gun left his hip. And then, and only then, after he was disarmed, did they shoot him in the back and kill him. So but like I said, I don't want to rehash that. Anybody can go back and look at the video. It's as clear as day what happened. And despite the fact that there's video evidence showing this, obviously the Republicans are saying he was a domestic terrorist, even though he literally did absolutely nothing wrong. This guy was an upstanding citizen. He worked at the ICU at the VA. I mean, like, this is a great person by all accounts. But like I said, I don't want to talk about that, because my focus now is on the vote coming up at the end of this week and on Democrats. So before I get into that, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and please do hit that bell so that YouTube will notify you when I put out another video. The suppression has been really outrageous lately, and I'm not entirely sure why, but I'm seeing other creators that are having the same problem on other platforms, and I can talk about that in another one. But focus on the Democrats for this one, because the budget vote is coming up at the very end of this week, and part of that obviously is going to be whether or not they give more money to Trump's ICE and Border Patrol. Obviously, Hakeem Jeffries allowed 7 Democrats in the House to vote with Republicans to give ICE an additional $10 billion in funding. And that was before the Alex Pretti shooting. So obviously that vote has aged like a jug of milk in 90-degree weather. We'll see if they decide to flip or not. Hopefully some of them have realized, oh God, you know, this makes me look absolutely terrible, although it made you look terrible anyway. But the position of every Democrat should be absolutely no, we are not giving another penny to ICE. And in fact, we think that ICE should be abolished and that we should get rid of it. Now, ICE is, one, it's fairly new. It didn't come about until 2003. And it's also totally and completely unnecessary, right? So we already had Border Patrol. We didn't need ICE. This was an additional thing that was brought about by the Bush administration. Not to mention that everything that they're doing is highly illegal. It's deeply unpopular. The citizens of Minnesota and anywhere that ICE is carrying out operations, the people there do not want them there. The mayors there, like Jacob Frey in Minneapolis, has said, we don't want you here. Please, please get out of the state. Get out of Minneapolis. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, has said, you have to get out of the state. Like, we don't want you here. And so it should be an obvious position that the Democrats, in light of the fact that federal agents, ICE thugs, are killing not just immigrants. Like, they've had something like, I can't remember how many it is at this point. Something like 40 people have died in ICE custody so far. But they're not just killing immigrants. They're killing American citizens. And so this should be the most obvious position in the entire world, to just come out and say, no, we need to abolish ICE. And to be fair, there are certain Democrats who are saying the right thing. Robert Garcia comes to mind because he's head of oversight. And, you know, he's been asked directly, like, hey, do you think that I should get funding? And he said, absolutely not. And I think they should be abolished. So he's saying the right thing. Somebody like Robert Garcia, I would like to see him in leadership, as opposed to like Hakeem Jeffries. But it doesn't look good, because most of the language that you're hearing from Democratic leadership is not in the vein of, we need to abolish them, we need to have these people arrested, Kristi Noem needs to be arrested and impeached, Stephen Miller needs to be arrested and impeached, Donald Trump, same deal, all of these people, Tom Homan, Greg Bovino. And I do think it's funny, just on the note of Greg Bovino, that he lost his job over the killing of Alex Pretti. And you know, like, if the reporting is true, which I saw, I think it was in the Atlantic, they said that he's going back to California and he's set to retire soon, but they're replacing him with Tom Homan, Trump's border czar. So I was joking about how it's like, okay, so you're replacing someone who's 100% evil with someone who's 99.7% evil. Like, he's literally walking around Minneapolis in an SS-style trench coat, LARPing as a Nazi officer, and we're replacing Heinrich Himmler with Martin Bormann, essentially. Like, we're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Which brings me back to the Democrats and the idea of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, is that they're talking about, well, we need more accountability from ICE, right? We need to make sure that they're wearing body cameras. We need to make sure that the training is more, right? The people who are involved in the shooting, and by the way, we still don't know who the officers were who were involved in the killing of Alex Pretti. But we do know from Bovino that they have not been fired, and they've just been put on like administrative leave or something like that. The guy who shot Renee Good, training was not the issue. He was like a firearms instructor. This guy is training other ICE agents on how to use guns, and he's the one who killed Renee Good. So what are we talking about? More training? If the Republican position is that we're going to twist ourselves into pretzels that are so fantastic it would impress a contortionist from Cirque du Soleil, that it's okay for federal agents to kill people in the streets, that's the Republican position, because all of them have come out and tried to say that he was a domestic terrorist, just like they said that Renee Good was a domestic terrorist. If that's the position of the Republicans, that it's okay for federal agents to just kill people in the streets, the Democrats' position, we want ICE to be wearing body cameras and to take off their masks while they're murdering Americans. It's completely insane. Like, the only position that makes sense for the Democrats to take is, we have to abolish ICE, we have to arrest the people who were involved in these shootings, we have to put them on trial, we have to impeach and arrest the people who are in charge of ICE. Like I said, Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller, Trump, Tom Homan, all of these people need to be impeached. They all need to be tried for crimes against humanity, because that's what this is. If this happened in a war zone, which, by the way, the streets of Minneapolis are not a war zone, but if this were to happen in a war zone, let's say in Iraq or in Afghanistan, and a U.S. soldier, after disarming an enemy combatant and having completely incapacitated him to where he doesn't have a weapon anymore and he's blinded because, you know, he's a whole can of pepper spray in his face, if he were to then shoot that person in the back, that would be a war crime, and that soldier would be put on trial. And as of right now, the people who have killed American citizens, Jonathan Ross for one, who we know is like, we don't know where he is, but we know that he's not on trial. He hasn't been arrested yet. He hasn't even been, fired, as far as we know. Like, they're just allowed to keep their job and continue to run free. These people committed murder. And on camera, too. So the idea that, like, oh, we need them to have more training and be more accountable and wear body cameras. Like, we don't need another angle of the shooting to verify whether or not it was valid or not, whether or not it was justified. we need this rogue gang of criminals abolished, and we need the people who have committed the crimes to be arrested and tried in the way that any other person would. And some of the other language that I've seen from Democrats, which is, again, just highly, highly disappointing and ineffectual, is they're talking about how ICE should conduct itself, at the very least, in the same way that other law enforcement is expected to conduct themselves. I'm like, people don't have a high trust in the police in general. I mean, think about it. Like, Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd, and he was a Minnesota police officer. Like, we don't need people to conduct themselves like the police. We need people to we need ICE to not be in the streets of American cities. Period. We don't need them in general, but at the very, very, very least, we don't need them inside American cities trying to conduct raids, because most of what we've seen them do is they've, harassed innocent people. They've kidnapped children. There was that whole thing in Chicago where, like, they went into an apartment building and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and they like dropped in on a Black Hawk helicopter and like zip tied a bunch of kids in their underwear and threw them in the back of a U-Haul van. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, and the fact that the Democrats cannot just come out and speak with moral clarity on this, and they have to like crowdsource what their response should be from some overpaid consultant because they're shit scared that the Republicans are going to say that they're anti-law enforcement or that they're soft on crime. Like, this is the pro-law and order position, because the people who are breaking the law every single day are the ICE goons. They're the ones that are breaking the law. They're trying to, like, get into people's houses without actual warrants. Like, they're arresting and detaining people without warrants. They're ignoring court orders. They're shipping people out of the country without due process. They're denying people health care in their concentration camps, in which people who, like, need medicine to survive, they're denying them that medicine. And that's why we have, like I said, I think it's something like 40 people now have died in ICE custody. So as an organization, there is no fixing it. There is no reforming it. They have to go. And on top of the fact that they're totally and completely unnecessary, they're not, there's no redeeming this. There's no like making it better or bringing it back. And I think that the eventual thing that Trump wants is he wants everything to get so insane that he will be able to declare like martial law, or to, use the Insurrection Act to just basically be like, look, everything's too crazy. We can't have an election in 2026, because they're literally behaving as if they're never going to have to face the voters again. They're literally behaving like that. Every single issue. It's not just ICE. They're underwater on literally every single issue. Healthcare, the economy, the whole, invasion of Venezuela, the tariffs, everything. They're underwater on every single issue. Trump's approval rating right now is like 35 or 36%. Nobody likes him, but what's even more damning is that the approval rating of the Democratic Party as a whole is like 18%. They're less popular than Donald Trump, the least popular person who has ever darkened the doors of the Oval Office. And that's a real indictment of Democrats. And the reason why is because they don't actually believe in anything, right? Democrats fundamentally are status quo managers. They don't want to change anything. And since now the status quo, the new normal, is to have federal goons running around American cities and not just harassing immigrants and ripping people out of their cars while they're pumping gas and whatever else they're doing, they're actually going after American citizens and violating people's First Amendment rights, violating people's Fourth Amendment rights. They're trying to break into people's houses and take people. And since that's the new normal, the instinct of the status quo managers are, well, let's manage how crazy the roving gang of murderers is. So let's make sure that they get more training than 47 days, you know. Let's make sure that they don't wear face masks. Let's make sure that they wear body cameras. That way we can have it on camera when they kill somebody. As if we don't have everybody has a freaking pocket camera. And all of these have been caught on camera. I'm sure there's a lot that haven't, which is even scarier. But it's like, we don't need more cameras. We don't need more training. We need them gone. We need the people who have broken the law arrested. We need the people who have murdered people to be put on trial. We need the people who are in charge of these fucking assholes to be impeached. That's what we need. And so, at the end of this week, I would be shocked if the Democrats actually say the right thing, which is abolish ICE, and they're not going to get a penny more of any of it. I think that they should just reject this budget that Trump wants anyway, because part of it is a $1.5 trillion in defense spending. That's a 50% increase over the already ridiculously bloated defense budget. The United States budget for defense is bigger than the next 10 biggest military budgets combined, and they want to increase it by another 50%. This is money that could go to healthcare, which they just stripped from millions of people. This is money that they could put into education, free college, paid sick leave, paid family leave, paid parental leave. There's so many things that we could be spending the money on. And Trump wants to give the Pentagon, who has failed, like, I can't remember, I think it's like 7 out of the last, like, it's like either 7 or 8 of the last audits, they have failed in a row. They can't account for almost 2/3 of their money. And Trump wants to give them an additional $500 billion. The Republicans stand for literally the worst things ever. All of their policy is trash. Everybody hates it. And the fact that the Democrats are losing and they have a lower approval rating than Trump tells you everything you need to know about Democratic leadership and how rudderless the party is under the stewardship of people like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, who cannot speak with moral clarity on an issue as simple as we need to abolish ICE because they're literally acting with impunity and they're terrorizing people and they're killing people and they're doing all kinds of illegal shit all the time, and we don't need them and they don't need any more money. We need to get rid of them. But we'll see. So is a government shutdown at the end of the week imminent? I don't know. If it does happen, will they hold out for like 40 days like they did the last time, only to cave to Republicans at the very end like they did last time? I don't know. But I'm not holding my breath. Anyway, if you made it this far, make sure you do like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell to make sure that YouTube notifies you when I upload another video, because the suppression has been really bad lately, as I mentioned earlier. You know, it's not a coincidence to have, you know, I know I'm not a big channel, but like 1,600 subs and only get 23 views. It's completely insane. And so you have to figure out a way to get around YouTube's algorithm by just letting YouTube know to just send you the video directly. And then hopefully they actually will. Anyway, appreciate y'all. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.